Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for coming, for your passion. Thank you so much for the energy that you have brought to the Parliament. Thank you so much for your courage, for being strong women. What I heard this morning and what I felt this morning from all of the men and women in this room was amazing. And we're going to continue with that energy this afternoon. I'm reminded as I look at all of your faces and hear your voices and your laughter and your concern for the world of a Mexican proverb, which is my heritage, of a saying that you may have heard: they tried to bury us, but they did not know we were seeds. So when I think of women, I think of all these growing seeds, and that I'm grateful to be with all of these women in this time and in this place. I'd like to first tell you that we're going to get started by grounding ourselves in prayer, and that we have 3 women who are going to share with us from their spiritual tradition and from their journeys. And they will be joining us, or they are joining us here on the stage, and we'll be started with Kiran Nielsen, who will offer a prayer from the Jewish tradition.
Hello, I'm Karen Nielsen Anson, a Jewish song leader. I'll be doing the Shehechianu. If you know the blessing, please sing along. Blessed are you, O wondrous one, Shekhinah, divine presence of God, for creating us, sustaining us, and bringing us to this joyous occasion. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
I'm Mesa Kurge, and I'm from the Muslim tradition. Let us humble ourselves before our Lord. Let's bow down our heads and pray. O Lord, we are grateful for all the unity in our community, all the volunteers who have come together and worked so hard to put this program together. O Lord, Lord of the universe, creator of the heavens and earth, you have made each one of us different and unique. Let us see the beauty in each one of us. Give us compassion and mutual understanding to get to know one another and love one another, to live in peace and justice with one another. O Lord, make this conference productive. Help our tongues to say what's right, and bless us with open minds and open hearts. O God, give us knowledge that will benefit us, and benefit us from that knowledge, and increase our wisdom. Give us the strength to put this knowledge into action and to work for the good for all humanity and against what is harmful to all of us. O Lord, let us be a positive example for our children to follow, and let them learn from our errors so they may establish a safer, more peaceful, and just world for all of us. O Lord, you have asked us to pray, and here we are asking. You are great and mighty. Guide our leaders to make wise and fair decisions, so there might be peace and justice in this world. Protect us from ignorance and misguidance. Have mercy on all of us and bless the community. O Lord, in the name of Prophet Abraham, in the name of Prophet Moses, in the name of Prophet Jesus, and in the name of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be on all of them. Accept our humble prayer. Amen.
I'm Kusumita Peterson, and I'm a trustee of the Parliament. And I would like to offer 3 poems by my spiritual teacher, Sri Chinmoy, on the Supreme as the Divine Mother. 7 seas and 7 mountains around me. Inside the light of the sun is dancing in the inmost recesses of my heart. No matter which side I cast my glance, Mother Divine, I see myself enveloped in your fond embrace. In this great assembly of the universe, I invite those to have peace, who are suffering most miserably. To them I say that the most precious wealth is the silent smile of the Mother Divine. In her hand is the world-enchanting flute of Lord Krishna. O Mother Divine, we cry only for the smile that embodies your life-transforming flute of light, which is the course and source of Earth's fulfillment day.
Thank you, ladies, for grounding us in prayer. I apologize. I forgot to introduce myself. I am Crystal Silva McCormick, and I have the privilege of serving as a trustee for the Parliament for the World's Religions. And I have the privilege to stand here and introduce and be amongst these esteemed women. And I want to first introduce to you Kiran Bali. Kiran is the global chair of the United Religions Initiative. She is a practicing Hindu and has led in the global interfaith movement on many levels and for many years. She is an environmental activist and has been involved with grassroots projects in tackling climate action for a long time now. She gave the Hindu opening words for One Earth, One Family, a multi-faith climate march, and she was recently awarded by Queen Elizabeth II and has received numerous awards. Let us welcome her and what she has to offer us.
Thank you so much. Dearest sisters and brothers, namaste. The divine in me bows to the divine in you. Let me begin by thanking each and every one of you for your divine presence in this wonderful, magnificent, groundbreaking program. Give yourselves a round of applause, please. Whatever our religion, our expression, or our tradition, we are all working in the hope for a world of harmony, of joy, and of peace. But are we at peace with our Mother Earth? Our Mother Earth is crying, and this is due to the destruction of her and her children. Deforestation, inequitable use of resources, global warming, greenhouse gases, these are all sources of rapid destruction of our environment. It is indeed the women who are mostly impacted by this change. As we speak, women are traveling up to 8 hours a day to fetch water. They're carrying bucket loads of around 22 kilograms throughout this journey. You could imagine the impact this is having on their bodies, on their back. It is women who are doing most of the farming today. But as the world is heating up, the farms are unfortunately failing. So how are these women going to feed their families? We cannot let this continue. It is us human beings who are responsible for the hurt and the damage that is being caused to our Mother Earth. The world is as we dream, but this current environmental situation we see, this is a bad dream. We owe it to our Mother Earth to help end her suffering. So I want to conclude with a plea. Let us translate our words into actions. Let us return unconditional love to our Mother Earth. Let us change our habits, save our resources, shop ethically. Let us educate each other. Let us really get behind this movement of making change. It is us empowered women. We need to be the voice. We need to be the action. in order to ensure the ultimate feminine power on Earth, Mother Earth, is truly respected. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiran. Next, I would like to introduce Yuka Saionji. She is the Deputy Chairperson of Byaku Shinkokai, a spiritual organization dedicated to world peace and raising the consciousness of humanity that originated in Japan 50 years ago. She is the author of the Notebook of the Heart and is involved in the World Spirit Youth Council. Please help me in welcoming her and what she has to offer to us this afternoon.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to first thank the beautiful prayers and the poems that started this session. My name is Yuka Saionji, the daughter of the chairperson of the Byaku Shinkokai, Masami Saionji, and the granddaughter of Masahisa Goi, a Japanese philosopher and poet who have created the peace prayer, "May peace prevail on earth," and a mother of a little baby boy named Toma. I am the deputy chairperson of Byaku Shinkokai, and I am here today to speak on behalf of my mother, who unfortunately couldn't fly all the way to US right now due to her health, but she's fine. So I am here today to share my mother's heart and soul, which is also my passion in life. After World War II, my grandfather said it was our mission in Japan to pray for peace, not only for the peace of Japan, but for the whole world. And until the day when everyone can pray for each country and for each other, we said, let us pray on behalf of all humanity and send our daily prayers to each and every country and regions of the world. With over 20,000 members, that's what we have been doing for the past 60 years and will continue until the day when everyone can pray for each other. Today, we face so many problems in the world, but in order to solve these problems, we must go back to the root cause of it all. That is why my parents Hiro and Masami Saionji, along with Dr. Irvin Laszlo, have launched the Fuji Declaration in May of this year. Who are we as human beings, and what is our purpose of our lives? The answers to these questions lie in the Fuji Declaration. We believe we are all here to bring forth and shine the divine spark within us. We want to celebrate the oneness in diversity. Rather than going into details about the initiative, I would like to share a story. This was my mother's experience over 20 years ago in Poland. There was an elderly woman. All her life, she has been poor and miserable. She never felt happiness once in her life. She was always struggling, raising children with limited resources. She always thought about dying and couldn't find a reason why she was alive. Somehow she was led to a prayer ceremony my mother was hosting. She was invited to pray for each country and regions of the world. And so she did. She prayed together for countries she's never heard before and for people she's never met before. And at the very end, when we finished our last prayer, she was in tears. She never knew she could pray for other people of the world so sincerely with her heart. Despite of her hard, tough life, she still was able to carry all the love in her heart and offer her prayers. And she was touched by her own self. The beautiful thing was at the end of the ceremony, she came up to my mother and offered her her only jewel, the ring that was given from her grandmother to her mother to her, and it was for her to pass on to her daughter. But she told my mother to keep it because she found the most beautiful jewel inside of herself. She was no longer a miserable, poor lady. She became the powerful, loving person, shining with deep, great purpose in life. That is the shift when there's the inner transformation, and she grabbed it, and she found her divine spark. Like this woman, we want to share stories in various ways on how we can all connect to our divine spark. That's why the Fuji Declaration, with the support of 60 partner organizations and 200 distinguished founding signatories, such as the former president of Costa Rica, Dr. Muhammad Yunus, Dr. Deepak Chopra, Ms. Myreed Maguire, and Ms. Jane Goodall, and many others who are here at the Parliament, to make that huge shift, a new story of humanity. And my mother strongly believes that this new story has to start from us women. She would have made a powerful speech to encourage you all to shine your light, the divine spark, to the world and let others follow. We hope you would join us in creating the Fuji Declaration a living declaration and into a movement. We invite people to start a dialogue, a gathering, research, or small actions to implement Divine Spark, not only in ourselves, but in different fields and into society. So please check our website and sign your declaration. Lastly, we would like to thank Ms. Barbara Fields, Mr. Charles Gibbs for giving us the idea and opportunity to speak, and of course to Dr. Phyllis and all the other organizers, speakers, participants, and volunteers today who are making a difference for women. We are so honored to be here with all of you. Thank you very much. May peace prevail on earth.
Thank you very much, Yuka, for your call to action and for your words. Next, I would like to introduce Geraldine Ann Patrick Encina. She is a member of the Otomi Inahu Regional Council in Mexico. She is an in-depth research into ancestral ways of convening cycles and measuring time in Mesoamerica. Geraldine brings extensive knowledge of astronomical implications that led the Otomi and the Maya to pick 2012 to 2013 as the time for the closing and opening of Great Cycle. Join me in welcoming her and what she has to offer us this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is afternoon. Now, don't take my 5 minutes away. I want to begin by saying I love you, I appreciate you, and I thank God for all of you. I am so filled with joy in my soul because when I entered this room, I saw what many of us have been praying for many, many years. We would come together. Thank God for the Parliament and for the Committee for the Global Women's Assembly, because we've been praying that we would come together and really work together as women for a common cause. Right now, I feel like a woman who was a former slave. Her name was Sojourner Truth. And for 40 years during the 19th century, she traveled the country speaking for women's rights and for the abolition of slavery and for anything that was an injustice to a human being. And on one occasion in 1851, she attended a women's convention in Akron, Ohio. And she was the only African-American woman there. And in that convention, she gave a famous speech called, "Ain't I a Woman?" And during her speech, she talked about all of the things that she had done as a woman to prove to the men and the women there that we were as capable as men in any experience we were in. During the break, I had the opportunity of going out to the sheroes. I wondered who they were. And they said they were veterans. They were former firefighters. They were women in occupations that we often don't hear about. So we have to always say to the men, "Ain't I a woman?" Say it with me right now. Ain't I a woman? Look at your neighbor and tell her, ain't. Tell your neighbor. When you think about all that we do, We have to realize that we are women of strength, women of courage, women of love, women of patience, women of great understanding. And today, my concern in my 5 minutes is to say to you that it's time for us to release our fears. We don't need to allow social media to dictate to us who we should love, who we should like, who we should appreciate. Because so much comes through the airwaves that cause us to live in fear of different groups and different nationalities and different ethnic groups. But somewhere along the line, during this conference, as we started this morning, I was so glad to hear the women this morning, we must begin to really touch each other and to look beyond the color of one's skin and to really say, I know that we are one. And with that, I want you to just take somebody by the hand. I do things differently. Reach out and get a hand. Because you see, there's another thing that I know, and I'm going to say this with all love. Women sometimes don't appreciate other women. Amen? We've got to learn as women to appreciate each other. Sometimes women are just as discriminating as men. I didn't tell you to take your hands loose. Put them back together. Now, why am I doing this? Because there is an energy in this place. And there's an energy in each one of us. And every time you touch somebody from the human level, you've already touched in your heart because you've learned that there's nothing but unconditional love. But when you touch that person from the human level, you are saying to them, I know with you that all is well. Because in this gathering, we don't know who has gone through the transition of a loved one. We don't know who has received information that says they have a life-threatening illness. We don't know what's happening in this room to each one of us, but when we touch each other, when we give each other that loving support through that one little touch, we can turn this world upside down. And I believe that, and I thank God for believing that. And I want us, as we go through these sessions together, when you see someone, speak to them, say hello. Don't look so ugly. Thank you for the drum roll. You know, just learn when I get on the elevator in a hotel, I say, hello, everybody, and it shocks people. But you know, people are needing love. And this is the beginning of something wonderful. This movement, this is a movement. In this place, this is a movement. We have begun something that can transform the world. And remember, wherever you are, keep holding the hands. See, I'm 6'5", I'm a tall Texan, I can see you. But wherever you are, speak to someone. Don't be afraid of who they are and what they are. Just say hello. They may need that hello. And I'm going to close with this saying, because I know my 5 minutes, I don't need to be up here for 5 minutes, I need 15, but I do have 15 another time, so come back and hear me the next time. But I want to give you a quote from Maya Angelou while your hands are held. Each time a woman stands up for herself, without knowing it, without claiming it, she stands up for all women. Today in this place, in this gathering where so many of us have come from so many backgrounds, we stand together. And so it is.
Thank you so much, Geraldine, and all the women that have thus far shared with us. My role is MC, and for a second, I hope that you'll let me be what I've heard called spirit listener, where I've been in some places where sometimes, people do say unkind things and don't get along, and the spirit listener has to say, whoa, what I'm hearing is, and we're okay, but what I'm hearing is that many people said that women were buried, but they didn't know we were seeds. So thank you. Thank you. That's what I'm hearing all of these women say. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Terry Tempest Williams. Yes. A naturalist, an author, an activist. She is the recipient of the numerous awards, such as the Brower Conservation Award for Activism and the Sierra Club's John Muir Award. She received the Guggenheim and Lennon Fellowships as well. Terry has testified before Congress and participated in many demonstrations. And I heard her in this last panel advocate greatly for the earth that cares so much for us. May we care for it, and may she teach us more about care for the earth. Please join me in welcoming her.
My gratitudes are many to be able to share this moment with you as women. My name is Terry Tempest Williams, and I'm the daughter of Diane Dixon Tempest. I am the granddaughter of Catherine Blackett Tempest and Letty Romney Dixon. I am the great-granddaughter of Mamie Comstock Tempest, Florian Kazare Blackett, Louis Mabin Dixon, the late Lee Romney. I am a Mormon feminist, and so are each of the women I come from, each in their own way, each in their own time. Here in Utah, my home ground. I am not alone. There are hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands, and I would say millions of Mormon women who are sisters, strong, thoughtful, prescient women who are feminists. Your presence here today in Salt Lake City strengthens us and gives us courage to speak what is in our hearts. We are grateful that you are here. Here's what I've come to know. If you are a feminist, you are an environmentalist. And if you are an environmentalist, you are a feminist. Both words in this state and in the United States of America and around the world are used against us as a pejorative. Why? Because the patriarchy fears us. Because the patriarchy in all its forms is destroying the earth. We are earth. Our bodies are earth. There is no separation. Both women and earth require equal justice under the law. Both women and earth require our devotion, beginning with ourselves, beginning with each other. Our survival and the survival of the planet depends on it. In a voiced community, we all flourish. Before my mother passed, she said to me, Terry, I am leaving you all my journals, but you have to promise me you won't look at them until after I'm gone. And then she told me where they were. A week later, she passed. A month later, I thought, now I will finally know what my mother was thinking. Her journals were exactly where they said they would be. 3 shelves of beautifully bound journals. I opened the first one, it was empty. I opened the second one, it was empty. I opened the third, it was empty. The fourth, the fifth, the sixth, shelf after shelf after shelf, my mother's journals were blank. I do not believe this is an unusual or a unique story. And each of us as women know both the vitality and the terror of the empty page. To hold this space of silence for women who've not been able to speak is a sacred act. And it is an imperative act that we do speak. My mother left me her journals, and all her journals were blank. I am a Mormon feminist and an environmentalist. What I can tell you is that I'm not an Orthodox Mormon, and I'm not a practicing one, but I am still a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I believe that there are room for all of us who have taken a divergent path. Like you, I am a woman of faith, and like you, I am faithful to my own sovereignty of soul. Not long ago, I was walking down the street, and a man stopped me and he said, "Get over it." And I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Get over it. There's going to be no more wilderness in Utah, and women aren't going to get the priesthood." I believe that as Mormon women and sisters, we should, we can, and we will hold the priesthood. Side by side with our partners, our brothers, our fathers, our mothers, our daughters, equal power and justice for all. And I'm not just talking about Mormon women. All women in our religious traditions deserve the power we have. Diversity equals stability. This is the first principle of ecology. We can embrace an ecology of mind and heart. The world is changing, the climate is changing. Climate change is coming for both women and the earth, for our children, for our families and our communities, indigenous ones and all. We come together as the we. Some things on the earth are unspeakable, writes the poet Susan Harjo, the genealogy of the broken. This beautiful broken earth is the beloved. This is where my faith and fidelity reside. I'd like to close with the scripture from the Mormon Doctrine and Covenants. The earth rolls upon her wings, and the sun giveth their light by day, and the moon giveth her light by night, and the stars also give their light, as they roll upon their wings in their glory, in the midst and the power of God. And to what shall I liken these things that ye may understand? Behold, all these are kingdoms, in the midst and power of God. And any man or woman who hath seen the least of these hath seen God moving in their majesty and power. Revision. Revision and reimagination is what is called for. Women and earth, no separation. The divine feminine is calling each of us home to do the work that is ours, large and small, and it is local. It is transforming the world. Women, priests and priestesses, priesthood. We can and will stand in the fullness of our destiny and power, in all faiths, in all countries, sisters united. We don't need a revelation, we need a revolution.
Thank you so much, Terry, for your courage. I am reminded of the poet Nayyirah Waheed. One of her short poems says that being honest about our pain makes us invincible. And women are invincible because we are honest about the pain that has been caused us. Another thing, an apology. So, Bishop Dr. Barbara Lewis King, you were amazing, and may you have the grace, as the rest of you all, to forgive me for not giving you the proper introduction. I gave an improper introduction off my list here. It's my fault. So let me properly introduce you, please. You are the founder, as you know, of the minister and world spiritual leader of Hillside International Truth Center, Inc., a new thought. An inclusive healing ministry open to all people, headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. You began with a prayer group of 12 in your home in 1971 and now have members and supporters worldwide. You have a BA, an MSW, and a Doctor of Ministry, and she has authored 10 books. She is one of the most foremost spiritual leaders of the 21st century and has traveled and spoken around the world. And my apologies. And thank you so much for your grace and for your presence with us. Okay, now I know I'm correctly introducing Dr. Vandana Shiva, who is an esteemed Hindu author and environmental justice advocate based in Delhi, India. She lectures on environmental issues as well as agriculture and fair trade practices. And we've already learned a lot from her in the session prior, so I look forward to hearing more from you as well as everyone else's, I'm sure. Thank you. Please help me in welcoming her.
Thank you, Crystal. This computer here says you're running on reserve battery power. We aren't. We have unlimited reserves, which is why we become invincible. So I'm Vandana Shiva. I was very blessed to have beautiful parents, a mother, Jagbir Kaur Shiva, and a grandfather who literally gave his life for the education of rural girls. He started a school. He wanted it to become a college. Those were the Gandhian days where you wanted a social cause, you went on a fast. And one day after, the president announced that this first school would now be the first girls' college. But he had gone. But I think it's sacrifices from our ancestors that allow us to stand strong today. I decided as a young girl, even though I grew up in the forests, to be a physicist. Einstein was my inspiration. And I went to schools which didn't teach physics, so I'd have to change schools. I'd have to go find professors from colleges to carry on learning. And I eventually did a PhD in the foundations of quantum theory. And quantum theory taught me what ecology teaches me, what we as women learn. Everything is interconnected. My thesis was on non-locality and non-separability in quantum theory. Now, separation is a very artificial construct. It's a very artificial construct. The idea that religions are not just divided, but Samuel Huntington took it to another level where he said, you cannot know who you are if you don't know who you hate. And that started so much of the violence of our times, the clash of civilizations. What we are looking for is the search for the diversity of our cultures, being one in a unity of one earth citizenship and one humanity. And we will shape it. We will shape it. I learned my early lessons as an ecological activist in the mountains of my region. I come from the Himalaya, source of the Ganges. Deforestation was leading to landslides and flooding. And the separation didn't allow the foresters to know that when they treat a forest as a timber mine, they are creating a flood. It was the women who'd never been to school who had to do the actions to reshape the forestry paradigm. The movement was called Chipko, which means to hug. And for me, ecological activism has always been about the deepest love for the earth, and the deepest love within community. And I'm so grateful that that was my training ground. I call it my other university, where I learned everything universities don't teach you. And women said, we're going to hug the trees, you'll have to cut us, you'll have to put the axe through our bodies to get the tree. 10 years it took of action after action. And eventually, after a very big flood, the government realized that what the women were saying was so right, that the forests protect the mountains, give us water, give us pure air. They aren't timber mines. And now in our region, we have conservation forestry, not commercial forestry. I was asked by our ministry to look at mining. And I did the study, and after CHIPCO, the first thing I do is I go to the women of the region and ask, what's the real issue? And of course, the mining was about minerals, but the women said it was about water. Totally changed the picture of what the issue was. We did a study. That study led to the first ever Supreme Court decision on environmental issues. This is 1983. And the court ruled, when commerce destroys life, commerce must stop because life has to carry on. And then we had the disaster of Bhopal, we had the violence in Punjab. I was forced to try and understand why there was so much violence in agriculture. The Green Revolution, not green, not revolutionary. Killed 3,000 people in one night in Bhopal. More than 30,000 people were killed in the violence of Punjab. That's when I decided to practice nonviolent agriculture. That's what then led me to realize that the ultimate imperialism that was being shaped was an empire over the earth. It started a while ago, but now to declare life in its diversity, life forms in their self-organization as inventions of 5 corporations. And when people say, oh, but it's so complicated, this issue of GMOs and intellectual property rights, and it confuses us. I say, okay, just go away and remember GMO means God move over. Because we are now going to pretend we are the creators. We own the seeds, we'll collect royalties from farmers, we'll push them into debt, and it doesn't matter if 300,000 Indian farmers commit suicide. For me, seed is sacred. Life of every person is sacred. And that is why, for me, it is unacceptable that farmers who give us food should be committing suicide. 15 have committed suicide in the last fortnight as the BT cotton, which is supposed to control pests, has led to new pests. 60% of the crop destroyed in Punjab. Farmers on the rail tracks blocking the trains, saying, do something to the government. The government said, please stop the protest. So the newspapers asked me for my response. I said, no, they should continue to protest till the government stops protecting Monsanto rather than the farmers. And because for me seed is sacred, I do all the loving work of saving seed, 120 community seed banks. We've trained 1 million farmers in ecological agriculture.
Keep going, sorry.
But a very important part of our work is something Terry mentioned earlier. It's inspired from Gandhi's non-violence, the term satyagraha, the fight for truth. He did it around racial segregation in Africa, South Africa. He did it on the compulsory planting of indigo during the British rule, as well as the 1930 salt satyagraha, when the British wanted to monopolize salt making. And he said, nature gives it for free. We need it for our survival. We will continue to make salt. We will not obey your laws. And he had said, as long as the superstition exists, that unjust laws must be obeyed, so long will slavery exist. This is exactly what the civil rights movement of this country and Martin Luther King picked up, that there is a duty to disobey unjust law because we have a higher duty to obey the laws of Gaia, the laws of humanity. And in our times, as the corporate world falls lower and lower and lower in trying to shrink the space for life on Earth and society. In United States, they're trying to pass something called a Dark Act, which has been nicknamed the Denial to Americans of the Right to Know. 64 countries have GMO labeling. In this country, Congress has passed it, Senate might pass it. Just so, something no one would buy if they knew there's GMOs can continue to have a market for a little while longer. There is a higher law we have. The higher law is the law that comes from all our religions, no matter where we are, including the religion of the earth. The food web is the web of life. Food is the currency of life. That is why when we contaminate food, we kill the bees. That is why when we grow toxic crops, we kill the earthworms, we make the monarch butterfly disappear, but we spread disease. In the human family, and I mentioned already, the distress of our farmers. We have better ways to do it. Women have been the experts on seed saving and food production since agriculture started, 10,000 years. And a little bit of greed and a little bit of arrogance is not going to make us forget what we know. So we've got to bring back the recognition that food is sacred. As the Taittiriya Upanishad says, Annam Brahman, the first being is food. Because in ecological religions, there is no separation between the earth and humanity. The earth is not profane. She is the ground of the sacred. And the soil is sacred. The soil is the earth. In all our faiths, one of the most ancient Vedas, the Atharva Veda, recognizes we are part of the earth and says, I apologize, I will hurt you a little bit to grow the food that's needed to nourish my family, but I will not hurt you beyond what's absolutely necessary. I will tread lightly on you. We have prayers when we step out of bed and take the first step on the earth. Apologies, but I will tread lightly. Now that treading lightly is from the awareness in all major faiths. The word human is derived from humus, which is, scientifically we know, the part of the soil that makes it living, but is also the Latin word for soil. We are made of the earth. We are the earth. And Adam is derived from the Hebrew term Adamas. So no matter which faith, which are today fighting each other, killing each other, all come from the recognition that we are of the earth. And as that recognition fails, and we abuse the earth, we abuse ourselves. We've just done a manifesto called Terra Viva, and it was around the time Syria was exploding, Boko Haram was kidnapping girls. So we decided to go into the roots. Before 2009, neither of these crises existed. 2009, there's a severe drought. Boko Haram has emerged in a region around Lake Chad, which had one of the biggest water bodies. It's been reduced to 5% of what it used to be. 9 million people supported, there's no water for them, there's conflicts. The global media is very ready to define it always as a religious war, always. It's an ecological conflict because of the violence to the earth. And Syria is the same. 2009, a drought, million farmers displaced. Agriculture was not addressed. Before you know it, there's the Shia and the Sunni. And the world is there to arm different groups, and you've seen the mess of ISIS. And I always say, don't forget, ISIS was the goddess of the earth in Egypt. And we've got to reclaim ISIS to be the goddess, as we have to reclaim her in our imagination as Vasundhara and Bhumi, as Pachamama and Gaia. We have been made to believe that there's only one way power exists, that power exists in violent, destructive, dominating form. But as women, we know the real power, the power of Shakti, is the power in creative, peaceful, partnership form, cooperation, harmony. And some of the work we'll have to do with a little effort, but I think a lot of the energy will come because we are of the earth. And even as she cries with the melting glaciers, and she screams with the cyclones and the hurricanes, and she rebels with the superweeds in the Roundup-resistant fields of this country, 50% fields are overtaken by superweeds, where nature is saying, your narrow-minded, ignorant methods of controlling me don't work. Respect my diversity, cooperate with me, and I will give you abundance of food. I will give you abundance of wealth. I will give you abundance of livelihoods. There needs to be no hunger and no poverty. Even climate change we can address by taking care of the earth, not through fear, not through panic, not through using the same tools that has given us climate change, but by shifting our paradigm to an earth-centered, woman-centered paradigm. And let me end with a prayer that our culture has given, which recognized that peace was not just about peace between human beings, but peace between human beings begins with the peace of the sky and the peace of the water and peace of the soil and peace of the earth and peace of the herbs and the peace of biodiversity. We will cultivate peace with joy, with resistance, with resilience, and we know the forces of life are stronger than the forces of destruction.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shiva. We have our final speaker, and don't we have an amazing lineup of women? Let's give them all a hand. Thank you. Our final speaker, an esteemed speaker as well, she'll be making her way up to the podium, is Aisha Al-Adawiya, the founder and president of Women in Islam Incorporated, an organization of Muslim women focusing on human rights and social justice. Ms. Al-Adawiya organizes and participates in conferences, symposia, and other forums on Islam, gender equity, and conflict resolution. She represents Muslim women in the United Nations forums. She coordinates Islamic input for the preservation of the Black Religions Heritage Documentation Project of the Schumberg Center for Research in Black Culture. Let us welcome this esteemed speaker.
Assalamu alaikum. The response is wa alaikum salam. I say to you, assalamu alaikum, which means peace unto you, and you respond, wa alaikum salam, and peace unto me. So, assalamu alaikum. Thank you. I'm really timid to follow this lady who just went before me. But I also feel that she's given me permission to speak truth to power, if I may. My name is Aisha Al-Adawiya. My mother's name is Magnolia. My maternal great-grandmother's name is Lucy. My paternal grandmother is Tony. And I don't know the names of my other ancestral mothers who were taken from our ancestral place in Africa, kidnapped brought here and enslaved. So in their name as well, I greet you. I also was very moved by the Native women who were here earlier, and it also rekindled in me my desire to know more about another ancestor of mine named Tecumseh. So these roots are very deep and they're very strong, but the Navajo lady over here said that her mother said to her that we are all natives of the earth, which is really very profound for me. Now, in my work as a social justice activist, among other things, that seems to be my calling, and having run around showing up for all kinds of human rights and social justice issues that I felt called to be present on. I founded Women in Islam in the early 90s in response to the rape atrocities that were happening in Bosnia at that time. Now, clearly I'm not from Bosnia, but the majority of the women who were being victimized at that time happened to have been Muslim. And there were no Muslim women's voices on that subject. So I felt compelled to join the conversation. Now, I must say that we have come a long way, baby. There was a time when women from religious traditions were not welcome in Western liberation movements. A lot of that has changed, and I'm happy to be a part of that and to be in this gathering today. But what I want to say is that when we talk about the dignity of women and honoring the sanctity of life, that women who are given this uniqueness, this specialness that belongs solely to women, the feminine gender, that when we find ourselves with any modicum of power, whatever that is, that it is not sufficient to just replicate the status quo, but that we really do need to step outside and speak truth to power. Now, one of the challenges that we find often is that it's scary out here when you're swimming upstream, and it's not always easy. In fact, very rarely is it easy to stand against very powerful forces that have the wherewithal to obliterate not only you, but your family and everything that is dear to you. But still, if we hold these principles to be truth, then we have to stand on the side of justice and on the side of people who are in need, and indeed to want for those people what we would want for ourselves, and that becomes the connectivity between all of us. It's no longer them, but it's us that we're standing up for. So what I would like to ask us to do as women, moving into our own areas of liberation and feeling our own potential for power and the ability to bring change, that we not carry those same double standards that we're living with today in the world. If we speak about one injustice in one part of the world, we have to also claim the injustice in the other part of the world. Otherwise, our speech is meaningless, it's hypocritical, and indeed we are complicit. So we don't want that, and it's not going to change the earth in any way. So for us to have the strength that's given to us by the Creator, to really call on our strengths and our powers to change the world in a positive way. And again, my sisters have spoken so eloquently about the power that resides with women who are spiritually grounded. And we have that uniqueness to bring to the world. But it's important that we do it in honesty, in integrity, and with authenticity. Our children, the Navajo lady sang to us, what will we say to our daughters? You know, and I live with that. One of the issues that we are raising in the Muslim community is we want women to feel at home in their spaces of worship, in their spiritual dwellings, in the mosques, right? We want that. And we don't see ourselves as reformists. Rather, we see ourselves as reclaiming something that was taken away from us. So we want that back. And it means a fight, so be it, right? But we are anchoring ourselves in our religious traditions, right? It means that we have to exert effort to learn what those traditions are and then move out in the world on those. But the walls, the barriers, the screens will come down, inshallah. So when we do that, we open up the doors for education, I think beyond education, for knowledge, for wisdom, and to appreciate what's been given to us by our elders. Young people, we have to find a way to connect with them. And I don't know, it might be through Twitter and Facebook also. But we also have to create those parlor talks again. You know, we need to touch each other. We need to feel each other. We need to see each other in the flesh. And I think that we have a lot of young people here today and throughout the weekend. Let's see if we can find a way to really amplify those connections so that when we leave this place, we can hit the ground running when we get back to our communities and really put some of this inspiration and these ideas into concrete actions, God willing. So I'm honored to be here. I know that women are on the forefront of all of the battles in the world. They are the first victims. Their children are the first victims. So we as women have the first right of protest. So we have to say no more war, right? We have to stand up against injustice, even if it's against our own selves, as our holy book tells us, that we have to stand up against it, even if it's against ourselves, our relatives, you see. So we have to do it. And when we do that, we also put ourselves in position to join and align ourselves with other people who have fought or are still fighting similar struggles. We can no longer live in isolation. And again, I keep deferring to the Navajo woman. We're all natives of the earth, and it's time that we start living like that. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Aisha Al-Adawiya. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Let's give a final round of applause to all our speakers. Also, a word of thanks to all of you for the time and the resources that it's taken to come and to share yourselves with these historic moments at the Parliament. Thank you to the men who came. For caring about the plight of women, for caring about women's issues, for hearing women's voices. A word that we're going to finish and take a break. And after that break, the breakout sessions are going to start. They are listed in the program, okay, and in the app. It should be correct this time. A word of apology on behalf of the Parliament for the glitches, for the crossed wires. There was some things that happened with time and scheduling earlier, I understand. Please forgive us. This is the first time that there has been a women's assembly. And a debt of gratitude to Phyllis Curat for putting this together. And Molly, Haran, these women have worked hard to make this historic event happen. They have spent their own time and energies, countless, that we can never repay them. And as we go, if you don't mind, I'm mindful of a quick quote from Marcela Lagarde. For all the women that cannot be here with us, and for all the women around the world who are strong and who aren't able to be here, who aren't able to be in school, who aren't able to be published in journals, I'm thinking that this quote fits for us and for them. Feminism or women's empowerment occurs all too quietly. It takes place not only in public struggles, but also in new forms of human suffering and of everyday life. It happens around coal stoves and kitchen tables, in food markets, on farms, in hospitals, in churches, in mosques, in temples, in synagogues, in classrooms, in concert halls, in the hands of an artist who stands before us, in productive projects, in mothering and parenting. To associate the cause with only a few women makes invisible millions of women. Let us be mindful of all the women who have been seeds and are growing love all over this world. Thank you for coming.
Ladies, could we have a group picture? You want?